So I'm thinking now, genuinely, how do you fix racism? Like, honestly, I was just spitballing thinking like, how do you fix it? And I'm thinking, all right, everyone says representation. Okay, fine. Representation in what way? Because I don't want people in a job because they don't deserve it, yeah? I'm like, how do you represent people in the right way? I think it's getting people the interviews or getting them in those positions where they can get into those jobs. So say on the BBC the other day or on ITV news panels or whatever, and they're talking about racism and there's not a black person on there, it's all being discussed by white people. I'm like, that's where representation is needed. You need a person of colour on there to explain to them how racism actually works, how it's been for them,
how it feels,
it feels, etc. Because you don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like asking experts in a completely different field of life about another topic that they're not well versed in. It's like asking an architect about, I don't know, how to be an anthropologist. It doesn't make sense. It's wrong. You need to have people in the right sort of, not in the right field, but people who have experienced that
relevant
kind of
experience.
Again and again.
Exactly. It has to be. It can't be academic. It has to be like, yes, this is what it feels like because I've been through it or I've had meaningful experience. I guess ultimately, it's what we said last week actually on the podcast. We talked about the white supremacist and having meaningful conversation and dialogue to understand, right? Because no, this isn't about racism, but in the NHS we get a lot of complaints, right? And like the other day, I had somebody mouthing off, just shouting on the ward, just kicking off. I just walked up to him and said, "What is your problem?" This is what I said to him. No. I said, "I'm going to ask you again. What is your problem, and how can I fix it right now? Tell me the problem." Right? Just cut straight to it. All it came down to, long story short, was he hadn't had his normal medicines, which included painkillers. He had chronic pain, right? Gave him a stat dose of his painkiller, and he was hungry. Got him a sandwich and some soup. Problem fixed. Now that's oversimplification, but the point is, we need to start people in positions where they can voice their opinion need to start speaking, and we need to start challenging people in a meaningful way. So debate is the thing. We need to understand, where is this opinion coming from? Is it your opinion, and what is it based on? So, I start thinking about like American History X and the film, and when he goes to prison and he spends time with that black guy, and he's like, oh, all this shit I thought before, all these preconceptions was based on what? Because I was indoctrinated, right? But then if I had some experience with a person of color, then my perception, my reasoning, my understanding would change. How do you do that en masse? That's the question. Because you and me could have conversations, right?
If you ask people, what's your problem, and they can't give you an actual answer, that's where it gets problematic. It's like if you ask a person who voted Brexit, why did you vote Brexit, and they can't give you a real answer, or they've been lied to and you disprove it, and they still cling on to it. It's like, okay, I can't help you now because your point has been disproven. That's discredited. The thought you had is now no longer true, and you're still clinging on to this thought that person's bad or just black people are bad people. And I'm like, okay, hang on. I can't break that now. I can't change you. I've understood why you do it, but that's probably a one nuanced point, but you're so dedicated to this thought that I can't break you out of it. It's kind of like brainwashing.
No, it is. That's what I say, indoctrination. But so that's level one, isn't it? So level one is you speak to somebody, and ultimately,
so dialects on the other side. So this is what I was saying. The white supremacist thing, like how you said, you need to speak to people who think differently to you. Yeah. But talking to people now, like a person on the right, a person on the left, just politically trying to get them to talk to each other, it turns into like a point scoring thing. Like, I got this, but you got this, but I got this, but you got this, and it's like, it gets tiring. It's like this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so then we can go the other extreme. Then the hardline solution: lock everyone up who doesn't universally accept things like peace and cooperation, humanity. Basically, everybody's racist. That's not a solution
But that's a really extreme version of communism.
Absolutely. So I'm saying, so we can't tell people what they should think. Okay, so then what it is? So then sometimes I think
it's like a multi-layered approach.
It's like if I want to convince, let's say, all right, here's an example in the NHS, right? If I want to convince a younger person to have a treatment and they're just not playing ball, I'm going to go to the parents. I'm going to get the parents on side, someone senior position, right? So then it filters down and it's coming from them and not from me, for example. That would be another tact. But these things are, they're intergenerational. And I think the problem is, how do we, the secret races, the secret racists are in a lot of power.
That's the hardest
how
part.
do you get to
trying
them,
to wean
man?
that
Because
out
if
is
you're
really difficult, isn't it?
if you're in a position of power and you have this opinion, right, which is I'm a racist, right, and other people look at that and they try and model that, saying he is a baller man and he thinks like this. This is what I need to think like to get to that position. We need to break that link where it's like, no. This isn't something to model. This isn't like champion behavior that you should be aspiring to be like. That's a big problem as well.
Yeah. I think also, I had two ideas really. So number one, this is going to be proper controversial, but I don't think cancelling people is the right way to go about it.
Cancelling.
So,
people counselling or cancelling?
No, cancelling. Like essentially,
what does that mean?
I'm gonna get you to lose your job now for this statement or being racist. They lose their job, they lose their well-being, like it's all gone because they did something racist. Now, part of me agrees with it, part of me doesn't agree with it.
Let's start with the part that agrees. Start with the agreement first.
So the part that agrees with it is, there's got to be repercussions for what you've done.
Right. So negative reinforcement.
There's got to be some sort of indicator to you that makes you think twice about doing this in the future. I get it. The part that I don't agree with is you're not educating them about it. All you're doing is you're taking everything away from them, which is probably going to make them more staunch in their ideas of saying like, no, they've done this to me because I said that. It's their fault. They've taken it away from me. So they become the victim. Right? And then by doing that, you're making things more and more divided. You're pushing them out of like a social circle. But then it doesn't mean that they change their mind about something. It means that they've just simply stepped out, but now they still probably have those thoughts. So you haven't fixed it. You just banished someone. That's not helping things.
You've deeply made them more deeply ingrained in that ideology. So what you're basically saying is then there needs to be repercussions, but there has to be this meaningful.
Yeah. So say if you have a flower bed, I can't just rip out one flower and say it's fixed. You have to rip up the whole flower bed and refit it, because if you do that, you then allow it to grow successfully and have everything growing properly, and you understand what was at the root problem, and you get that fixed, so everything is now fine. You see what I mean? That's what has to happen. There has to be like a remapping of some sort that goes on with people.
Okay, but who delivers that?
So this is where it gets sticky, right? I don't know.
So is there therapy that exists for racism? Let's say, like, let's use that now.
Maybe there is. Maybe there's like a form of CBT, or maybe there's some kind of like, if you make it compulsory that somebody who's been convicted of like a racial charge has to attend X amount of counselling sessions, they have to go to it. If they don't go to it or they don't attend,
negative consequences.
Then obviously there's further consequences, like you're going to be sentenced now because we gave you a chance. But
this is like the analogy of when you drive and you get a fine, right? Do the course or take the points and get the fine or whatever. Yes, yeah. I like this analogy. This is a good analogy.
So if you do that, that's fine. But then equally, there has to be some sort of like, I personally think just having counselling is too lenient. I think you have to have some kind of bigger
negative.
You have to have some kind of bigger negative thing associated with it. Now you can try and blag your way through counselling and stuff, and you can still hold on to that. So there's ways around it. Now the reason why I say this is because you know Ian Wright. Yeah, he's an ex-Arsenal footballer.
Mate, he hates Ronaldo. Tell me that first. Why does he hate Ronaldo?
Ronaldo, does he?
Man, he's like, oh, Ronaldo's not going to score this free kick. He never scores any free kicks. He's just gone off on one, man.
Was that Ian Wright?
Ian Wright, man, he's like, oh, he never scores from free kicks. He's not going to score.
Yeah, but he doesn't dispute the fact that he's a great player.
I don't know, man. He seemed like he had some personal vendetta that day. But yeah, Ian Wright.
Ian Wright, he was abused last year by a kid on Instagram. He sent him a bunch of racial messages.
Okay, what was the context here?
Just randomly, the kid lost the game of FIFA, and he jumped on and started saying X, Y, and Z to Ian Wright. I think that's what happened. The FIFA thing is definitely correct. I'm not sure if he lost the game to someone like black or something, maybe. I don't know. But
so random, he just randomly started.
Yeah, he jumped on. Ian Wright just posted on Twitter saying, can't believe I'm still getting messages like this nowadays. Obviously, Twitter doing their investigation thing, found out where he lives, found out everything about him. 18-year-old kid, right? Police took him in for questioning, released him. Right. And what happened was the kid then said, I think I got the notes here, what did I say? So, what did he do? The kid wrote him a formal apology. Ian Wright accepted it. And by Ian Wright accepting the apology, the judge then saw it as a way to give him leniency in the sentencing and not give him a jail sentence. Instead, he gave him probation and a much lighter sentence than the kid's actions. Okay. Now, what does that send out about other racism and issues with it for others in the future. It's such a minor offence. And it's crazy that there's so much leniency that's put down to the kid being naive. But say if someone is found being taking like recreational drugs at that age, they're given a much harsher sentence or much harsher treatment.
Yeah, but remember,
now, Ian Wright's
looking
pissed
at
off because he said I shouldn't have accepted his apology if I knew that this is going to happen afterwards. He said he's just got away scotch-free.
Okay, but here's the question. One, we're not the judge, so we don't know everything about the case, right?
I looked at the case online. That's exactly
but you can look at the case, but you're not the judge sitting there presiding and listening. Second thing is, if Ian Wright accepted the apology, that to me tells me that he thought that the intention was good and clear and this was a meaningful apology. Otherwise, why would he accept it?
I think he accepted it because he's just a genuine nice guy, right? However, I think there's a part of it which is maybe he shouldn't have accepted it because he would have been given harsher treatment afterwards and the kid would have been having some sort of reparations for what he did. And maybe how has he been
since?
The kid?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so for example, say there'd been no more tweets from him, has he not been? What's the word?
Okay, but that's him.
Reformed.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe for him, he might be more silent about it. It doesn't mean he's fixed. He might just keep it to himself. He might say it to other people. I'm just
still better than before, no?
Here.
Yeah, it's still better than before.
Maybe, but it's not fixed the problem, has it? And then by having such a lenient sentence in that way, what do you think it's going to do for other kids online that are thinking the same thing? Like, oh, this guy dared me to tweet something racist, so I'll set up an anonymous profile and do it. They're never going to find me. If they find me, the max that's going to happen is I'm going to get a fine. Like,
no, but the law doesn't work by precedent. Each case is judged individually.
Each case is judged individually, yes.
Yeah.
But if you set a deterrent...
Yeah, you're saying just come out strong from the front and then why allow even people to start even think they can do it? I understand your point. Yeah, I agree. If you do it once and you set a really strong precedent, then it's like, man, this is not going to be accepted. So this would be interesting now, all this shit that's come out. Like, for example, these comedians, right? So they're kind of in semi-positions of power. Okay, this guy for BBC's lost all his gigs, right? But is it going to be more, like, are they going to make an example, a real example of somebody like this to say, no one is above the law, irrespective, like, you got the kid or you got the drunkard who's quite easy to properly convict and really be harsh on. And then you got these people who kind of a bit more well-known, Savile Row kind of person, right?
But the weird thing about comedians is that Savile Row, you mean Savile's?
Savile, sorry, not Savile Row. Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I was like, who's Savile's? But I checked online. I think it's a construction company. No, it's a rental company or something like that.
But for someone like that, right? If he was made an example of, then it's like, okay, no one's immune, no one's above the law. Yeah. That's the kind of level of you need sentencing.
With comedians, they are. I'm not saying they get a protective blanket, but do you remember what I said last week about them pushing the boundaries? They do push the boundaries
which
a lot.
Which is a good thing in context.
But I think I don't ever want to silence a comedian from telling their jokes, and it's never going to go well.
But if you do that, it just makes it smaller and smaller. Timing is the thing.
Timing, setting up a premise, setting up a joke and stuff that makes it better.
Your own experiences.
Yeah. So say one thing comedians do that is really ingenious is they will have a really controversial topic, but they'll pad it. And the way they pad it is they'll like pre-build it with a precursor that takes the piss out of an experience they've had or a problem that they've got with themselves. And then by doing that, it softens the blow, but equally it makes you think like, oh shit, how did he slot that joke in without it going down really badly? It's because they've set the premise in such a genius way that it doesn't make it seem like it's controversial or it's an inflammatory statement. It's a normal thing, and I'm like, wow, that's where the art of it is.
The beauty of comedy is, if you reflect on, oh, I was laughing at that, I found that funny. Should I have found that funny? Oh, this is what I learned about myself. That's the genius, man. You're like, shit. That's actually what I think about this topic. But yeah.
So there's that side of it. So cancelling people, I'm torn on it personally. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. I think there has to be like a balance with it, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know if that cancelling shit is real. It'd be great if it was, but if it's not, maybe it could be something.
What about schools, Indy? Schools.
So then my next point was that. My next point is education. So make this more from like an early age at school. So forget doing social studies. Fuck PSHE.
PSHE.
Make this a top priority. Huh?
PSHE.
Yeah, fuck that. Make
We're going to
this a
show
top
you this
priority in
video
schools.
from the
Oh,
1960s.
God. Don't show
This
us that
old
video of
white
people
man, telling you about the birds
showing
and the
his
bees.
genitals. This is
Yeah,
what
yeah,
genitals are. This is how a penis works. I'm like, oh God, man. It's horrible.
Yeah.
But if they introduce education about racism early on at schools, from like, say, 7 or 8 years old,
Right.
you can teach kids the pitfalls of racist bias that are put on others and help them think for themselves from an early age.
That's
Or maybe they can
It's
see
that.
the world through
It's
a minority's
that.
glasses.
It's just basically getting kids in a room, right, and just basically questioning them. Guys, what is racism? Why do you think it exists?
Not even questioning them, but just like
No, it is.
asking them.
How
what they
does a
think of
mind learn how to think for itself? You have to question the mind for it to think. Oh yeah, okay, that's interesting. That's the only way we. If we don't think, we don't learn. That's the problem. When
Yeah.
you stop thinking, you're not going to have an opinion, and that's dangerous because then you will conform. Because you feel like
Because
you
no
have to
kid
have
is
an
ever
opinion.
brought up as a race. No kid is born racist.
Born, yeah,
Every
yeah.
kid is born pure, innocent, a clean slate.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
You mold the kid how you see fit. Right. The things they're exposed to are the things that mold them or make them into who they are.
Absolutely.
Right.
But if you grow up
So-
and somebody's saying to you in your ear, these immigrants took our jobs, these black people, these Indian people, these
You're
ethnic
going to
Polish
build a
people.
resentment towards them.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really early on, and then you're going to go to school and you're going to pipe on about it, and then any situation which like just
Backs
resembles
up your
this,
bias. Yeah.
right, and just
Anything
deepens
that
it, and you have any
reinforces
reason just to
your
blame.
bias. Boom.
That's it, and that's how you get
It's gonna
deeply
ramp it up
ingrained in
another
opinion.
level.
Yeah.
So if you have some sort of education about that early on, how the classes are going to work, I have no idea. Like it's a concept that can help people, but say for adults, I don't know. Maybe they would need, as we said, some kind of counselling or therapy to understand why they think they are about their own prejudices, and maybe they can complete a course where the therapist agrees that they've been rehabbed, and if they don't attend, like I said, give them a harsher punishment. But
Consequence.
there has to be more sort of done to educate people about these sort of preconceived notions they have, because otherwise
Yeah, like let me give you another
it's
example.
it's not going to fix itself, and just those circles are going to get more and more divided, more and more separate, more and more excluded. But
Imagine,
that's how go on.
imagine you and me.
Yeah.
We're not black, right? But we're brown guys with beards. Brown guys with beard, there is a connotation, terrorist.
Yeah,
Imagine you
100%.
and me, we go into a school with some kids and we just introduce ourselves. I'm Jazz, he's Indy. Guys, does the fact that we have beards, does that scare you? Question number one. Okay, then we get some divided answers. Why does me having a beard scare you? This is the kind of shit, man. Just really getting into kids, getting around kids, and just questioning their belief system, right?
Getting into a kid's psyche. Yeah.
Exactly. But we would be in a position from what we have, because like you said, earlier you said, if I walked around certain areas, I would feel unsafe. It's because of the way we look, man. Right? We don't conform to we're not clean shaven and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think we are in a unique position because there is a part of the population that live in the UK, do not want to be British, make no effort to fit into British cultural norms.
Yeah.
I don't think they're good either, but I think where we have flourished, I'd say, Indy, is that we have our Punjabi roots and we are loyal to that, but we're also very British, and I think the fusion of the two is what we enjoy, right? It is our thing. Like, you know, in the hospital, right? You know, the corridor. You remember that picture I had taken for that cover of that magazine?
Yeah.
In that corridor, on the right-hand side, there are these pictures of basically people in the community. One of the pictures, two pictures, and one is of ladies in the Gurdwara with junnis serving langar. Okay? There's another one of this Baba, like proper Nahang Singh, playing cards with other Babe.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like Qatar would look like when he's older. That kind of look.
Yeah.
Right?
Qatar is one of our friends
Qatar is one of our friends, and this will be him when he's older. And so one of the days, you know, this I noticed this paramedic white lady was standing there looking at the picture, and so I just walked over to her and I was like, "Do you know what this is?" And just to give context, she wasn't being racist or anything. She generally just didn't know. But I took it as an opportunity there to be like, "Oh,
to
okay, this is a
educate.
Sikh. Yeah, this is a Sikh person. I'm a Sikh. This is what we believe. This is what's being here." 2-3 minutes tops. That person now can tell. She has understanding, and now she can spread it on. All it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a blank slate. Imagine trying to
Blank slate, yeah. Unpick.
imagine
yeah,
trying to
different
change someone's
thing.
mind that's been filled full of shit. Like that's a long process.
I think I need to watch that film again, man. American History X. How does he get reformed in that film?
I've never seen it.
Oh, dude, you need to watch that
Watch
film.
Black Klansman. That's a good film.
Yes, started it. It's when Denzel's son plays the undercover.
Yeah, and that's about
Yeah.
racism in the Ku Klux Klan. That's really, really, really fucking good. I was surprised how good it was.
Mm.
And that's based on a true story as well.